Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Yonela Mbulawa. Thank you for inviting me to speak in front of you today. Well, today I'm going to talk about the causes and effects of delays in the construction industry in South Africa. Firstly, we'll look at the overview of my presentation, where I'll give you an introduction, tell you what the objectives of my study are. I'll look at some literature review. I'll discuss the methodology of my research, focusing mainly on the population and sampling, the method of research, and questionnaire administration. From there, I'll draw my results from my study and then draw conclusions and make some recommendations. Thereafter, I'll be taking some questions from the floor. Now, the South African construction industry has contributes substantially to the GDP in South Africa. However, in 2013, the South African construction industry was receiving bad publicity. One of the reasons for this is the delays at the Eskom power plant projects. These would be at the Medupi power plant in Limpopo, the Kusile power plant in Mpumalanga, and the Ingula power plant in the border of the KZN and the Free State. Because of such delays, it is imperative that we, as South Africans, we look at the cost of capital projects for the country. Now, delay is defined as the extension in time beyond the agreed date of delivery for a certain project. This is a global phenomenon experienced worldwide, and South Africa is, of course, no exception. Delay is often viewed from the industry as a whole, but it is often forgotten that there's one person that suffers the most, and that is the client. Now, previous and current research has focused mainly on either causes or effects separately, and there is lack in addressing both cause and effect together so that we can take a look at the high-risk areas as well as the most likely outcomes. Now, in the South African context, it is not clear what the main causes of delay are, and it is not very clear what the most likely outcomes can be. The objectives of my study were firstly to determine what the main causes of delay are, and secondly, to determine the main effects of delays. For some literature, I looked at the definition of a delay, the categories of delays, the causes and the effects of delays in the construction industry. A delay is defined as making something occur at a later stage than it was planned to, which would then cause an event to occur at a later time. Now, specifically within the construction industry, it is defined as a time overrun beyond the contract date or beyond the date that was agreed upon by the parties involved. There are 4 categories of delays that I mentioned. First category, which is the most important that we're focusing on, would be the critical or non-critical delays. Now, the critical ones are the ones that would affect the project dates, that would actually make the project late, and the non-critical ones are the minor ones that can be sorted out quickly. Second category we have are the excusable and non-excusable delays. Now, the excusable delays are the ones that could not have been foreseen before the project or during the early stages of the project. And the non-excusable ones are those that could have been foreseen. For an example, if you get on site and the nature of the ground can be foreseen that it is likely to cause delays, then that could have been foreseen and it's non-excusable. Thirdly, we have compensable and non-compensable delays. Now, if a delay is excusable, it is indeed also compensable. The last category would be concurrent and non-concurrent delays. Those would include, if a delay is non-concurrent, that is the one that's separate to the critical path of the project. That's now the shortest time that the project can be completed in. Now, there are 8 different categories of causes of delays, the main one being the contractor-related causes. Now, that would include factors such as the contractor's experience, how organized the contractor is, and the financial implications that the contractor has towards the project. Secondly, we have client-related causes. That's now the financial standing of the client, how quickly the client makes his payments. Thirdly, we have contract-related factors and material-related factors. Those now would be sourcing of materials, if there's shortages, that could cause delay as well. Another category would be consultant-related. That's now the quantity surveyors, the contractors, the principal agents, architects, all the various stakeholders in the construction industry that are involved in a project. The next category we have is labor-related issues, such as labor strikes and low labor turnover. The second last category would be contract relationship factors, and the last one would be external factors such as weather. Now, the effects of delays, there were 6 identified effects of delay, the top 2 being the time and cost overruns. Time overruns would be the contract going over time, and the cost overruns would be the contract going over budget. Thirdly, in any project, I'm sure as all you know, there are conflicts that arise. These could cause disputes that are sometimes an effect of delay. If conflicts can't be resolved by dispute resolution, then the next step is arbitration, causing even more delays. Failing which, the next step would be litigation and lawsuits. We all know how long court cases can take, and the least popular of these effects is abandonment of projects. In terms of methodology, I'll be discussing that the research was quantitative. I'll discuss my population and sample. I'll discuss my questionnaire in terms of design and administration. My research was quantitative, and the data collection tool that was selected was a web-based questionnaire. I selected the web-based questionnaire because it was the most likely to reach the most number of people. As we all know, this is the day and age of the internet. In terms of population and sampling, I chose my population as the Professional Quantity Surveyors that are registered with the South African Council of the Quantity Surveying Profession. The random sampling method was chosen because my population is large enough, they are accessible, and they are available. In so doing, I chose the Professional Quantity Surveyors in the Eastern Cape as my sample. My questionnaire had 3 sections. Section 1 dealt with the demographic information of my respondents. Section 2 dealt with the causes, and Section 3, the effects of delays. A Likert scale was employed to rank each factor and each effect in terms of importance on a scale of 1 to 5. And that is 1 being not important and 5 being very important. But another variable, which was number 6, was added to the scale to improve the accuracy of my respondents in terms of if a respondent was not sure how to answer the question, they could tick that instead of giving an inaccurate response. In terms of my administration, I first did a pilot study to test my questionnaire, to test how well it read, to test how long it would take in order to be able to reach the desired a high response rate. Secondly, I dropped a cover letter while obtaining the membership list from the Council of Quantity Surveying Professionals. And then I sent out individually addressed emails to all the people that were on the list. And then in weekly intervals, I sent out reminder emails for asking the respondents to participate in my study. The results were as follows. In total, the questionnaires that were successfully issued were 74. The initial sample was over 100 people, but due to people changing work and changing email addresses, some of them could not go through. Now, the number of responses that I got were a total of 31, which gave rise to a response rate of 41.89%. In terms of demographics, the following factors were gathered. the gender, age, experience, and qualifications of the respondents. In terms of age, 39, which was the biggest group of the respondents, were over 55 years old. The second highest percentage was 26%, which is the age bracket of 36 to 45. And then the rest were either 25 to 35 years old or 46 to 55. None of the respondents were under 25 years old. As we can see from this room, there are more men than females, and so was the case in my study. 81% were all male, and the remaining 19% were female. In terms of experience, 84% of the respondents had over 10 years experience. The remainder had an experience of 5 to 10 years, and the rest, and none of the respondents had less than 5 years experience. In terms of qualification, most of the respondents had a bachelor's degree and an honors degree, some having a BTech, very few having a doctorate, and the rest were split according to doctorate, diploma, and a BTech. None of them only had a matric certificate. Now, in terms of ranking the categories of delays, the contractor-related causes was ranked the highest at 73.61%, followed by contract-related factors at 70.69%. The lowest ranked causes were material-related. Now, as the study reveals that contractors are most likely to blame, it is in line with the famous saying in literature that says, contractors are often to blame when things go wrong in the industry. Now, the two leading causes are usually contractors and clients for construction delays. However, in this study, the contractors and contract-related factors were the most likely causes. In terms of effects of delays, the top two ranked effects were time and cost overruns, and the least was total abandonment at 71.61%. Now, time overrun is the most likely. It is almost always the case that if the project delay equals time overrun. In literature as well, in a study that was conducted in Malaysia by Sambasiv and Insoon, that was also the case. Now, in conclusion, contractor-related factors have been found in South Africa to be the leading cause of delay. Time and cost overruns go hand in hand as the major effects of delay. The study echoes the findings of previous studies that have been conducted in other parts of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, we all know the saying that time is money, and as quantity surveyors, I think it is imperative that we always keep that in mind. Now, to recommend a few recommendations, contractors need to always ensure that they don't spread themselves too thin, and they are familiar with the scope of works for the proposed projects. Secondly, there must be careful consideration when drawing up contracts in terms of clauses and conditions that are included within the contracts. Thirdly, clients need to allow reasonable contract durations for their projects and not, so to speak, expect miracles from contractors. Lastly, professional consultants must always put the client's needs first. It does not help anyone to bicker amongst themselves. We all know the war between architects and quantity surveyors, and I believe that if they would put the client first, those would be eliminated. I thank you very much for this opportunity. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Thank you, Yonela, for the presentation. Is there any specific reason why you've chosen the quantity surveyors as your sample?
Usually,
contractors?
Yes. Usually, quantity surveyors oversee projects. They are usually chosen as principal agents. They are the people that cost everything, so they have a view of everything that goes on in a project. So I thought they were the likely candidates to be able to give an objective opinion.
What about in-house problems on construction site? Would they give you the same feedback as the contractor maybe?
Well, the contractor is the likely culprit, so I didn't expect them to implicate themselves.
Yes, yeah, I think in one of your opening statements you said that it's not clear what the main causes and effects are in the construction industry. I think
In
that
South
is
Africa.
a bit debatable because really very much research has already been done on causes and delays. We've seen 2 this morning already. So I just want to ask, what makes yours a bit different from the others?
The studies that contain causes and effects together have hardly been done in South Africa. They have been done in other parts of the world. But in South Africa, I felt like we needed to look at the very high risk areas and the most likely outcomes so that we can try and look at those, focus on those areas.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I would just like to see a little bit more of your results, more of your questionnaire. How did you get to the contractor being at fault the most? What
Okay.
was those factors that your respondents had to take into consideration to get to that?
I calculated the means and the modes, and I checked the frequency of my respondents' answers, and then I got an overall ranking percentage. The percentages that were on the table, that's what I used to arrive at the ranking
But
of the factors.
when you set up your questionnaire and you said, okay, now contractor-related factors, did you have factors underneath
Yes,
that?
I had factors underneath each category, but I thought that was going to be too long because what I wanted to know was what are the leading categories, broader categories.
Maybe it would be a good idea to try and break it down.
Okay. Thank you.
You have that in your treaties and
yes.
conference paper.
Yes.
Thanks for the presentation. Just in terms of, just as from interest point of view, you looked at causes and you looked at the effects, okay? And then you, from the causes, you identified the main causes and the effects, the main effects, okay? Did you look at specific, is there any chance of, or did you look in your research at specific causes related with specific effects, or did you look at them separate? So could you associate specific causes with specific effects? Did you analyze that, or did you just look at them and say key causes, key effects?
Key causes and key effects. I didn't say this directly leads to that.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I think that to be able to look at causes and effects, to eliminate the causes or to address the causes, you need to also see what they lead to see what priorities in addressing them. Possibly you can, you know, if your research is causes and effects, like instead of doing 2 separate pieces of research, you must try and establish a link in between the 2. I think that's quite important. The other one is as well is if you say the effects, some of those effects is if there's a delay, then generally the project won't finish on time. Do you see what I mean? So in ranking that, I think that came out as one of your #1 ranked. The project's not going to finish on time. So if there's a delay, so some of them are quite obvious. If you see where I'm coming from. So it's just trying to identify if something is delayed, then we're not going to finish it on time. You know, just make sure that you identify those things that perhaps not that obvious.
Okay.
If you see what I mean.
Yes.
But otherwise, good things.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Ms. Mbulawa.
Thank you, ma'am.
This morning, our first speaker spoke about delays in delivery of projects as well. And the emphasis was on contractors in the Eastern Cape,
Okay.
for good reason. Yours also discusses delays, and it conflicts, in my view, with what the first speaker this morning had to say.
Mm-hmm.
Because, if I am correct, you stated categorically that contractor-related
Factors.
issues are the main cause of delays.
Yes, ma'am.
Our other speaker informed us, with good reasoning, that payment issues are the are the principal cause of problems in construction projects. How do you respond to that firm opinion, where yours is that, and I take exception to the statement that you made, that contractors are the likely culprits. That's a big problem in the industry,
Yes, ma'am.
is that contractors and subcontractors are automatically perceived by so-called professional people as being the likely culprits whenever there's a problem. But that's another issue for another day. I think we must be extremely careful of taking up the cudgels in a way that actually designates a culprit before the evidence is produced one way or the other. So I would just like your response. One research study identifies payment issues, and another research study emphasizes contractor-related issues. I'd like your response, please.
Well, contractor-related issues, ma'am, include the contractor's management of the site, the contractor's financial standing in terms of being able to perform, the contractor's experience. Very often it is found that some contractors have more than 3 projects running at the same time, but they want to do this project as well. That's one of the reasons why contractors are the main cause of delays. Secondly, some contractors are not as experienced as others, and for whatever reason, they might land the contract in the tendering process. Contractors, I think they are a viable candidate to be the principal cause of delay.
So you don't actually consider that payment issues are a problem?
They are a problem,
Did
just
you
not.
identify them?
They are within the bracket of the client. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, just adding to that, sorry, Mr. Kay. We must also always look at the respondents. In the first research, it was contractors' views.
Yes.
In this case, it was professionals' views. So the question of bias, I mean, one tends to, one blames the other one. So we must always be very careful about that.
I think that's what Professor Gay was alluding to.
Okay.
To need to see the difference between the two.
Okay.
I gather from what you've been putting before us that everything is based on the evidence of post-contract, of the experience of the profession regarding contracts that have happened or have been, and once a contractor is appointed. But I don't know how one can incorporate into a questionnaire of this nature, but I believe that a lot of contracts are destined to problems of cause before they even start. And primarily, I believe, because of the choice of contractor. When the appointment is made, the choice of the contractor will often, I believe, determine whether there is going to be a delay. You can almost predict, and I think the professions that are involved with clients know that if they're going to get a certain contractor or group of contractors appointed, that before they even start, they know they're going to have face overruns of time particularly, and cost possibly. We're talking about the causes now. I don't know how one can incorporate that as a cause, because it wasn't an option in the questionnaire. Now, and you can't call it a client based thing, because you're only looking at the experience of contracts after that happens. So that's a comment from me.
Thank you, sir.
Got a couple of comments for your treaties. Thank you very much.